Hello friends, Tanya here for Trinity Stamps, and today I am using one stamp set and I am creating 4 cards. We are going to use the Oh Snap stamp set. I love this giant crocodile with all of these little birds that can sit on his back, or you can use separately. I did color this a while back, and thankfully I wrote down the Copic colors that I used, and here he is in all of his glory. I really love the way he turned out, so I'm glad I saved that. But I do want to show you how to quickly color this fellow. It took me about 10 minutes, but he is a large image. He is designed for a slimline card, so he is about 8 inches long. And I don't know about you, but I don't like having to go around small objects over and over again. And on this fella, I figured out how to do it without going around those little dots. Now, this only works with Copics or something that will color over another color, even if it's a lighter color. So I imagine it would work with some of the opaque paints also. So I started with the darkest color on his back, and I'm working my way down to the lighter colors, and I'm blending all that in, and we're going to do the dots last, or the spots last. I am using 2 lighter colors on his belly and under his jaw, and I did manage to go around his teeth and his eyeballs, although on a couple of these I did not notice that one of the eyeballs was an eyeball, and I colored it green too, but it's hard. It blends in. You won't hardly notice. At least I didn't until I looked at it a long time after I did it. So the way I am doing this now is I am taking a lighter color, and this happens to be a YG, I think it's YG21. So it's a pretty light yellow green, and I am adding it to all of those spots. And the alcohol ink pushes that color back, the darker color. So then you get these blended spots, and here you can see how that YG21 pushed the darker colors through. So here are the rainbow of birds that I colored, and again I was wise enough to write the Copic colors that I used, and I am doing a little still freeze a screen here for you, so that if you wanted to pause and write those numbers down or the Copic colors down, you sure could. I did use the coordinating dies to die cut all of these images, and I colored that alligator 4 times, or crocodile, and I made 6 copies of all of those birds. I have a pile of birds. Next, I'm pulling out this new layering stencil set called Leaves and Lemons. That's what it's called, Leaves and Lemons, and it is an amazing layering set. There are 4 layers, and you don't have to use all of them. In fact, it would be a little tough to use all of them. The 2 leaves are actually one that you can use just with the lemons, and then the second one is if you're going to not use the lemons. And I used 2 different greens. I've got Twisted Citron and Mowed Lawn here, and I did go back oh no, not yet. I did something later. This is the branches, and I'm using brushed corduroy, I believe is what I'm using here. And these are all Distress Oxides. And I'm just blending the trees limbs in, or branches. I wanted this to have a very lush feeling to it. These are going to create the backgrounds, and I made 5 of these backgrounds. Yeah, a little extra. That's all right. This is a background that I absolutely adore, and I am certain I will use any extra on future cards. So here I did add a little shading with the Mowed Lawn over the top of the Twisted Citron layer. Here are 4 of the 5 layers that I created, and I used a whole bunch of dies. Some of them are new, some of them are old. We're going to use a variety. We're even going to use an A7 or 5x7. We're also using the rainbow, what is this? The Rainbow Brights, the slimline papers. These papers are gorgeous. And I actually chose my color scheme off of the Copic colors that I used and the rainbow pattern paper that I decided to use. So I had cut all of these panels down to fit 4 different cards, 2 slimline, a mini slimline, and a 5x7 or A7 card. When I laid out all of my pieces to decide how I wanted to create this card, the crocodile kind of blended into this background. So I wanted to soften it a little bit right behind the birds and the crocodile. So I took some ink on 3 shark tooth white and softened it where the images are going to overlay. And I'm taking some brushed corduroy and I'm inking the bottom of the panel to ground our crocodile also. So I'm planning this out again. I've lost one of my little birds. You can see me looking for it. I end up finding it later, but that's okay. We'll just take one from this giant pile of little birdies I have in the corner. Now I'm assembling this a little different than I usually would because this crocodile is bigger than this 5x7 panel. So the leaves were cut with the modern embossed A7 layering stack. And I used the 4.5 by 6.5 panel, and for the green matting, I used the 4 3/4 by 6 3/4 panel. So I've glued those together. I adhere my crocodile, and then I trim off the excess. Normally, I would trim it off up to the card. However, I wanted this to be just on the layers. Now I'm popping up all of these little birds with a little bit of coaster blank, a little bit of dimension. And I did have to move my middle set of birds. I just love these little birds. They are so adorable. I love that they're standing on his head and that it's so perfectly aimed. You can see that he's looking up at the one standing on his head. It's so cute. We're going to use the Snappy Birthday sentiment on this one. Most of the 5x7 cards I create end up being birthday cards for work. Thus, almost all of them that you see me make will be birthday cards. So you could use whatever sentiment you wanted on here. And there were some scraps left. Oh wait, we still haven't adhered this. I did use my Misty to get the sentiment on there, and I am less frightened of doing this. Since I always wait till the very last parts to figure out where I want the sentiment to be, it just is working out well to use my Misty. With some of the scraps of the stenciled paper, I used the Stitched Strips die set, which is really a handy set of dies. I used a whole bunch of dies in this video. You can use whatever you have in your stash. You probably have some of these in your stash. If you don't, you should. This one, I used the slimline stitched panels and die cut the largest stitch panel and the next size down, and we used that rainbow pattern. And we're using the lemons and leaves and lemons panel that I cut out. We're going to add our crocodile. And this one we're going to add, let me see. We're just adding 4 birds. So the grouping of 2 and the one that stands on his snout and the one that stands on his eyeballs. Of course, you could move these guys around. They don't have to all be in this particular order, but I like this order. I might mix it up another time. I'm going to add I Got Your Back to this one. I thought that was just a fun sentiment also. And I like that there is space between the birds just above his back to add the sentiments on this one. Just going to use my VersaFine Onyx Black after I placed the assembled card in my Misty. I did remove the foam pad because with all of the layers in here, you don't need that. And as you can see, I stenciled on the inside of the card also. Card number 3, we're using this diagonal stripe slimline die. I love this die. It is one of my new go-tos. I am loving it. This is the smallest stitched slimline stitch panel that we die cut the stenciled piece with, and I put a little coaster blank behind that too. And here comes Mr. Crocodile. He fits on these slimline slimline cards perfectly, which makes sense since that's what he was designed for. And this one is going to be the It's Been a While Crocodile. So I just put three little friends on his head, and this time I used the grouping of 2 to stand right on by his eyeballs, and of course the little blue one that faces the right direction. I've assembled this card completely again, and then we will add the sentiment, which is again lining up just perfectly above his back. There was some real thought put into this card, or excuse me, this stamp set, the images and the sentiments. I think it's adorable. I don't know about you, but I like to say punny things to my grandkids, and it's see you later alligator, after a while crocodile is one of those things my kids and my grandkids enjoyed saying. Now for the last card, we're doing a mini slimline card. These are adorable. I love them, and yes, I'm going to make our crocodile fit. I am using the stitched mini slimline stitched stack here, and there are a ton of dies in that stack. I think it is very well worth the purchase. And these do work on bigger cards too. You don't have to use them for that. This one is going to say, I have to pull it out and look at it myself. Oh yeah, you're so sweet. I thought this would make a great little thank you card. And I think that the 2 little birds standing on his back and on his head are so cute, with him like he's smiling looking at these little birds. I think in Africa on crocodiles there are birds that take parasites off their backs or something, but you see pictures of crocodiles with birds on their backs all the time. We are going to add a few more birds on the inside of this card just to add a little decoration to it. This is the 3rd way I've decorated the insides of the cards today. I am also using the coordinating envelope dies, the envelope builder dies, and I did stencil on those. Also, each of those has a coordinating envelope. I have really begun to make a coordinating envelope for every single card that I make. I think it is a perfect finishing touch, and now that I have the tools, why not use them? I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know which of these is your favorite, or if they all look the same to you. Check out the description box below for all of the supplies that I've used.